Hello humans and blah blah blah, this is my third time recording this. Welcome to the Disventure Camp All-Stars character tier list as of episode 5. I'm going to be doing these tier lists for every single interval. Or I'm going to do these after every single episode from now on. Initially I was going to stream my reactions, but I got kind of bored doing that. And I feel like my reactions would be a bit more raw if I just let myself watch the episode itself instead of trying to think of funny commentary on top of it. So, yeah, Disventure Camp All-Stars. I am definitely really enjoying this season so far. It's definitely on the right course to be my favorite season of the show. I'm really excited to see where it goes. So, yeah. Without further delay, let's get into the tier list because I do not want to have to record this yet another time. So James goes in B tier. I think that he contributed a good amount to the season for a first boot. He's not like Will, who tried to get audience attention way too much for how little he actually did in the season. But he's not like Oliver, who got to stay and have his own subplot, which I do think was pretty cool. But yeah, James contributed just enough to the season, basically being one of the things that kickstart Jake's jealousy arc, which is pretty cool. So yeah, B tier is a solid position for him. He really can't be ranked much higher considering he didn't really do anything, but I think he as a person contributed a good amount to the season. Unlike Lake, who didn't really leave an impression on me this season one way or another. Now remember that this is specifically a ranking for this season and not other seasons. But yeah, Lake just did nothing for me. She's just the friend of Jake this season. It's like pretty much any of the complexities of her abusive parent story have been completely removed from her character at this point. Which I do understand, it's because that storyline's already over, so there's not really much of a direction to take her. But I feel like they could have at least tried a bit harder to give her something to do. Instead, it seems like they were more interested in surprising the audience by booting her early, but in reality, it just makes me feel like she could have done a little bit more. So yeah, that's my opinions at least. Usually Disventure Camp's pretty good with its early boots, but it seems like the second boot is almost always the weakest. Well, always the weakest as of now, with Carol being one of the worst characters in the series because they just could not write her arc properly. And Drew being cut too early because his gimmick was actually really fun and we barely got to see it. So yeah. Next up was Miriam, who I think that I'm actually conflicted between A and B tier for her, but I think A tier is a good consolation. I love the fact that she contributed as much as she did, considering the fact that she didn't make it far. That's just one thing you'll notice with a lot of these early boots. I like when early boots can contribute something to the season without, well, not going too far with it. Miriam got a good amount of screen time. She still felt like as major of a character as she did in the previous season. And she was even the one who exposed the Villains Alliance, which is pretty cool. It's just that I do think that as an early boot, she didn't really do much. But I feel about the same as I did with her in Season 1. She's a really good character, and I'm glad to see her. I just wish she would have... I guess she did a decent amount. Which, yeah, is pretty much what I think of Disventure Camp Season 1 Miriam as well. And finally, the final boot that we have to look at before we can continue is Hunter. I honestly would have put Hunter in D tier if it wasn't for episode 5. I found him not accepting Fiore just because she's a little girl and not because of anything she did the previous season to be insanely annoying and repetitive. And he just seemed like a really bad boyfriend to Allie. But now that the previous episode has given us a bit more context on the relationship struggles, I think I do think that he's more justified, but I still can't really put him anywhere above C tier. Above or below Lake? I think above. The previous episode did make me sympathize with this character a little bit more, but the whole him not liking Fiore because she's a little girl got really repetitive. It was basically the same thing over and over again, and that's all he did until episode 5. Which was a good episode for him, and is the thing that keeps him out of D tier, but he's not gonna, like, shoot all the way up to the top of the list just because, oh, I sympathize with him a bit more than I did before. So now we've got this order right here. You may have noticed me moving Tess to the back. I'm going to explain my opinions on Tess at the end of the video because it's probably the one I'm most passionate about, and I feel like it would end the video on the most interesting note. In the meantime, though, I think this is a decently good order, though I'm actually going to move someone else. So I think I'm actually going to cover Yul right now. I do not like him this season at all. The thing is, in Disventure Camp Season 2, he was all the way up in S tier for me. He was my favorite character of that season. But now, I just don't think his character works even nearly as well as he did that season. The main reason why Yul was such a great character in Disventure Camp Season 2 was the fact that, one, his stuff never really went above, like, petty insults, which kind of highlighted the more pathetic side to his character. He was basically like that pathetic jerk that no one would take seriously. And two, he was actively called out by the other contestants about his terrible behavior. This season misses the mark on both of those. Now, the stuff he does comes off as a lot more cruel, actively fat-shaming Gret, and just generally, I didn't find his comedy nearly as funny as his comedy in the previous season. I don't like him anymore, and the worst part is that he's never really called out for the way he treats Gret. At least in Disventure Camp Season 2, when he was criticizing Maggie, everyone called him out for it. No one thought that he was in the right, so because of that, he was in a tough position and was just kind of lucky that he already made an alliance with Hunter and Tess. Now, though, I'm just like, why is he still here? He's a terrible person, he's a terrible boyfriend, everyone already hates him. And he's not even funny anymore. And part of that is the fact that they try to tackle more serious subject matter with him, when, at least to me, the reason why his character worked was because he was a joke. Now that they're trying to be serious with him, it just makes me hate him. So yeah, D tier. I don't think that there's any F tier Disventure Camp characters, but you'll definitely really drop down my list. Rhea. I don't like what the fanbase has done to Rhea's character, first of all. Like, back in Disventure Camp Season 2, you know, she had her arc of she wants to make it big, and then she acts like a jerk, and then eventually realizes that she should just be herself. Now she's thrown that message out the window, and I feel like it's going to end up going to the exact same place that it did before. Even if I do really like her new design, I do think that she had kind of lost a lot of points for me. She wasn't one of my favorites because her arc did feel a little clunky, but I could at least see what they were going for with it. Now, also, it feels like it's all been undone, and because of that, I think she's going to the bottom of C. I gotta say, Gen 2 has really not been faring very well. The Season 2's cast has not been faring very well. Yikes. Now for Gabby. I think she's a similar case to Miriam for me. She was my favorite character of Disventure Camp Season 1. I loved her in that season. She was the peppy, energetic one, and they actually had treated that as like a character flaw that makes her struggle to make friends and such. But because of that, it made her and Ellie's friendship so cute to watch. She was just a really good person. She was a good person at heart, but people couldn't look past how annoying she can be sometimes, and I personally relate to that on a really deep level, so yeah. Anyway, as for her this season, I do still really like her, but I will admit that she's not really doing anything right now. She's basically just the comic relief of the season, which, to be fair, is a very important role that I feel like a lot of these fan seasons miss. But, yeah, she hasn't done anything in terms of plot, so I think A tier is a good position for her. Next up is Gray. I guess C tier? Well, she is really sympathetic, so I guess B tier is a good position for her. She's been pretty sympathetic so far, mainly just because Yul has been completely ruined. So, I am definitely rooting for her. She may be my choice for the winner thus far, but I think that she needs a bit more interactions with people other than Yul. In fact, Yul and Gret have pretty much only interacted with each other, but Yul at least has a little bit of a something with Rhea. Gret just hasn't done anything this season yet. Which, I did state this in my winner predictions video, that I do think that if a character doesn't really do anything in the early season, then they're a prime candidate to win it later. But yeah, I just want Gret to do a little bit more now, because they set up a kind of interesting position for her, where initially she was the girl boss, and now she is kind of struggling. But they haven't really done anything with it. So yeah. I actually think Aiden is a solid A tier this season. I'm really interested in the directions his story is going. It's nice seeing that he as a person has... I mean, some people say that he has a bit more personality than he did in Season 2. I think it's mainly just the fact that he's in a more interesting position than he was in Season 2. He's still kind of insecure, but I love how fun-loving he is this season. Fun-loving and kind of goofy. He honestly feels like a decent fit for Tom, even if it would be kind of sad if he left James. He's just more likable than he was in Season 2. Not that he was unlikable that season, because, you know, he had a lot of stuff he was dealing with. But, you know, he didn't really have much of a personality apart from the hero. So, and because of that, what he did to Carol in episode 9 completely ruined his character for me for a really long time. But yeah, I'm really turning around on him this season. He is definitely rising up the ranks as one of my favorite characters at Disventure Camp, seeing as he was solid in Season 2 if a little clunky, but I mean, pretty much everyone is clunky that season. And now is like all the way up. I am really done with Fiore at this point. I gotta be honest, I think so far I'm gonna put her in B tier. I am so sick of Fiore's shtick at this point. It has become way too repetitive and predictable. Pretty much, she doesn't have to do anything because everything will be handed to her no matter what. That is the impression that I'm getting from Fiore. She's such a writer's pet, and she just always gets what she wants. I'm really done with it. She's now part of a villains alliance. For some reason, her team didn't vote for her in the previous elimination ceremony, though I am hoping that they actually use their brains and vote her off the second they lose next time. Because I could at least kind of understand the logic previously. Now there is no reason to keep her around. Boot her the second you lose. Yeah. I really hope Fiore doesn't make the merge this season. I really wanted her to be an early merge boot because her stick of constantly getting what she wants over and over and over again just got really repetitive and dull to me. And unfortunately, it seems like they're continuing this exact same trend with this season. At the very least, she does have her needing to make up with Alec arc, but I feel like that could be wrapped up in like 2 episodes. So yeah. I do, similar to Yul, I'm kind of hoping she ends up getting eliminated soon, and when I'm hoping for your contestant to get eliminated, that's not a good sign. Alec, on the other hand, oh, do I put him in high A or S? A tier is getting a little crowded, but I think high A is a good position for him. Well, you know what, above Gabby. He was already one of my favorite characters of Disventure Camp Season 2. I mean, he was just a really interesting character, and it was nice seeing a more, I guess, like, introverted character in the cast. And it was interesting seeing him bond a bit with Fiore. It was a bummer that it had to end on such a sour note, but it was nice at the very least. And it's nice to see that he still has that strategic angle to his character, like, you know, forming the villain alliance. And the only reason why that didn't work was because Miriam spied on him. So, yeah, I am really enjoying Alec, and I'm hoping that he makes it far. I think Jake goes in B tier. I'm just kind of neutral to his story right now. I don't dislike it, but I don't really like it either. I think that it just feels a little dumb that Tom would try to blank him like this. It's just weird because we didn't really see that many signs of friction of them with the finale of Season 1. But now Tom just seems to never want to talk to him, and he doesn't like him and stuff, and I don't know, I feel kind of bad for him, but at the same time, I still don't really like him much as a character. He's basically become this season's Aiden, being a bit insecure and such, which, I don't know. I do think that it is interesting that Jake and Aiden are having a bit of a rivalry. You know, Jake doesn't like Aiden, and Aiden is kind of oblivious to what Jake is thinking. It is neat, but I don't really feel much for it right now. It's just kind of there. I gotta say, some people may disagree with this, but I think Elliot being put in a villain role is enough to put her in S tier. Or maybe high A. Okay, I think mid A is a good position for her. She's always had this somewhat strategic side to her, and after what Miriam did to her the previous season, which was quite frankly terrible, and I do firmly believe that she has every right to still be mad at Miriam, I think that she is just a really good character, and I'm glad I really like her arc of how she is a much different person outside of the game than she is inside of the game. It is kind of similar to Ria's, but I feel like it's much better executed because we've already seen how she acts before. Or unlike with Ria, where we never really got to see how she truly is, with Ellie, we from the beginning know how she truly is. We know that she has a bit of a strategic side to her and has a really miserable life outside of the game, but is still a really good person. So it's kind of interesting to see that her strategic side goes so far that she's willing to play the game dirty. It's nice, and I kind of hope that she ends up learning from her mistakes and learning how to play the game the right way. But yeah, I do also think that she may just end up being flat out the antagonist of the season. I know for a fact that Yul and Brett are not going to be the antagonists because their story is probably going to wrap up fairly shortly. Hopefully. So yeah. I don't really like Tom that much this season. I already kind of said it within my discussion with Jake, but I think that Tom is a little bit of a jerk. I think that the way he's just flat out blanking Jake and refusing to actually tell him about what's going on, it seems a little cruel, honestly. I get that he's mad at Jake, but I don't know, I'm kind of just waiting for that moment when he realizes how much of a baby he's being. He is basically about as bad as Jake was the previous season to me. And Jake seems to be actively trying to grow as a person, whereas Tom seems to be completely content, completely ditching him for Aiden. And I do believe that Tom does actually love Aiden and is trying to get with him, which to me makes him pretty scummy. I'm actually going to put him under Hunter because of that. He knows that Aiden is with James, and Aiden would be loyal to James no matter what. So why is he constantly trying to get with Aiden? I don't know, and it just makes him really unlikable. I'm hoping that he and Tom and Jake sort things up. He is Tom. But I don't know, I just kind of want this whole thing to end. Okay, just a few more minutes. How long is it? Yeah, I've been playing the same song on loop for this entire time. Anyway, so I guess I'll just try to rapid fire these next three since I don't really have much to say on them. Well, apart from Allie, I think she is a substantial step up from the bland character she was in the previous season. She is still not really that interesting to me, but I do think that her being a bit of an emotional wreck is kind of a cool direction to take her character. The idea that the fan criticism really got to her in between seasons is actually it's an interesting way to incorporate the fan base's perception of the show, and I do think that it gives her a lot more intrigue than she initially had, instead of basically being, ooh, I love Hunter. I mean, she wasn't exactly like that, but the episode she was eliminated in really made it feel like that's all there really was to her. I did kind of like her, the more down-to-earth gamer girl personality, but I think this personality is also a really good direction to take her character. And unlike that season where, unfortunately, because she was just kind of the likable one, she didn't really do much, here, she actively has a personality, so I feel like she's going to actually do stuff, especially now that Hunter's gone. I'm interested to see what they do with her when she's on her own. Ashley doesn't do anything for me. I guess she's rootable, but yeah, I feel like C tier. I was not interested in seeing her return for this season. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I never really got the hype behind Ashley. She's fine. I like her a good amount, but I don't think that she's going to be winning any awards or anything. But, I don't know, she hasn't really done anything apart from hang around Jake, and I'm kind of worried that this is all she is, just that support character to Jake, which, because of that, I don't think that she really has much of a reason to root for her. She did have that really touching backstory that I quite liked, but apart from that, she doesn't have anything. She's just, yeah. Sorry, Ashley fans, I just completely tore her apart, didn't I? Speaking of which, Connor is also C tier. I'm not really all that interested in him right now. He and Rhea's arc, it just kind of feels like a retread of the arc that they went through in Season 2. Like, those few moments in the finale. It just feels like a retread of that, and it hasn't done anything to really wow me. I'm not really all that interested in him. What I am interested, though, is Tess. She has become my favorite character of this season, and one of, maybe even in my top 10 of the entire cast. She is just so likable this season. She was already a pretty solid character in season 2. Her arc was simple, but well done. But in this season, they just knew exactly what to do with her. I love how she has a friendship with Ellie, and in general, you can see why these two would be friends. They both have somewhat sarcastic personalities. But Tess, I love that she's also a bit of a therapeutic character, especially to Ellie and Hunter. She wants to make peace and doesn't want to cause conflict. You know why? Because she has been through hard times. She knows what it's like to be completely miserable, and she doesn't want to see that misery in the world again. That, to me, is just the sign of a really likable character. And she still has that sarcasm, so she's not uninteresting either. I am so excited. Now, I don't think that she's going to be the winner anymore, partially because of the fact that she's actually started to do stuff. But I will say that I don't really... that for the time being, Tess is definitely shooting up my list as my favorite character. So yeah, those are my opinions on the cast thus far. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and have a beautiful day.